Okay, so for the video production final exam, it's going to be a presentation. You're going to do a report on a director. You are going to use a template that I provide you, which I'll go over with you in a minute to show you what's all involved on the template. After you're done creating this presentation, then you're going to use WeVideo and you're going to do a screen capture of your presentation. So it's going to look like this. Here is an example. This one here is Tim Burton, Alice in Wonderland. So on the first slide, you're going to put, let's go back, a photo of the director. You're going to put in who the director is and the film. You're going to be analyzing a film by them. So the main film that you're going to be analyzing. All right. And then you're going to give us some biographical information. So, who is Tim Burton, the year he was born, the place that they were born. So, I mean, in this example, it's Tim Burton. You will have a different director. Okay. You're going to tell us the year they were born, the city they're born in, and if they are dead, you will also list their their date for death. I want to know who what their family life is like a little bit, their past family, who their family is. Are they married? Do they have children? What kind of education did they have? Elementary school, high school, college, any type of education they might have had, internships, any interests of theirs that might have inspired them to go into filmmaking, where they live currently and where they make films or where they lived in the past and where they made films. I want to know who their parents were or who their influences were in regards to what inspired them to become a filmmaker. So this is the template you're going to be using. It says here, place a photo of your director, include their name, the film you're going to analyze, and your name as well. So here's the information: the year they're born, place, their family background, their educational background. If they're dead, what year did they die? If they're still alive, where do they live currently? All right, so moving on to the next slide. I want to know a little bit about like what other films they've directed. So maybe a list of other films they've directed. Okay, so slide 3 is list the movies that the director has made in the past. Okay, similar to what you see here. Okay, slide 4, I want you to explain why you chose this film director. What about them inspires you? Okay, so slide 4. On this slide, you should include a movie clip from the film that you're analyzing. You can go to imdb.com and look up the film or use YouTube. But I'd like you to put a clip here of the film. And I'd like you to explain the following. Why did you choose this artist? Why did you select this movie by this director? Explain when you present and give concrete evidence. For example, I want you to give more than just an opinion. I want you to give me some technical information or explain their cinematography or how maybe they also wrote the story and developed the story. And so, give me a real concrete reason for why you like that film, not just like, oh, I like it because it was, good. I mean, that's just too vague. Okay. So you need to give me a lot more information. Also, what was the problem or dilemma that was resolved in the film? Think back to our 3 acts that we wrote, right? There's always some type of problem or dilemma that has to be resolved in good films. What is the message of the movie? The main lesson that you learn from watching the film? And why would you recommend this movie to a friend? Okay. So then, like why I chose this was actually broken up, I think, into a couple of different slides. why it inspires me, uh, who or what inspired Tim Burton. Okay, so then on another slide, I want you to explain wh- who or what inspired the director to get into the business in the first place. Okay, this could be another filmmaker, possibly. This could be events in their life, going to school, maybe teachers. And so then I want you to include some film clips or some photos here of the folks or the people or the events that inspired this person to get into filmmaking. Okay, so as a kid, we can see here that he was influenced by a few different movies, and so those references were placed here. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next slide. We're going to look at the technical specs of this movie. Okay. I want you to discuss the type of equipment that was used in this film. And so, how you're going to do that is you're going to go to imdb.com, you're going to look up the film, and you're going to go to full technical specs. Okay. So, it looks like this: imdb.com. Let's put in Belfast. Okay, that's a recent movie that just came out. Belfast 2021. Okay. And it was a great movie. I just watched this movie over the break. And so if we come over here and scroll down, and you can come over here to technical specs. Okay. And you want to click on technical specs. And it'll pull up, show all 5 technical specifications. So we see that time, we see that it was a black and white film. The aspect ratio is 1.85 to 1, is Panavision C series. So here are the technical specs. Okay, so the camera was a Panavision C series. Okay, um, maybe you can read about what a black and white film is about. Okay, so then what I want you to do is I want you to copy and paste these technical specs on the page, okay, on this page here. And I want you to include maybe an example of the camera. So I want you to go over here and look up the Panavision C series. What does that camera look like? Okay. And put a couple examples of these cameras on this slide. Okay. Kind of like what we have here. This is also a lot of green screen work was done, special effects, and so forth. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next slide. Number 7 is going to be a movie review. So what I want you to do is go find some kind of critical review of the film. What have other people said about their work? Research the critics' comments on a specific movie made by this director. So it should be the film that you're analyzing. And so look it up. So here's an example. The New York Times editor Paul Jones said that this about the movie King Kong, a magnificent epic film that pulls at your heartstrings because you feel sorry for the large ape, yet fear him at the same time. Now, I want you to quote part of the movie critics, what they wrote. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. Maybe parts of the critique that you agree with, and maybe parts of the critique you don't agree with. And then I want you to respond. And I want you to give me a concrete reason for why you agree with the critique or you don't agree with the critique. And so if you read this example, it says, I agree with this review because King Kong forms a protective relationship with the damsel in distress and protects her. Though in the process he's a bit rough and almost hurts her, this reminds me of a recent story involving Haraba the ape who was shot at the Cincinnati Zoo because he could have killed the young child even though he was trying to protect the child. But his strength was so much for the child, and in the end, the ape had to be taken down because the tranquilizer would not have worked quickly enough before the damage would have been caused to the young child. So this story was very closely parallels to the story of King Kong, because they had to kill him because King Kong is causing damage to New York City and all the buildings and the people there. So this is an example of strong evidence, okay? It's just not a like your personal thoughts, like, oh, I agree with this because it's just fine, it's perfect. Yeah, I agree with this. I mean, that's an opinion. That's not really giving evidence for why you agree with a critique or not. So I expect you to give me some good evidence here. Okay. Moving on. So then slide 8 is just going to be any final comments, any interests, any images that would complement the slide, any interesting points about this director, anything that else we need to know about them. So if we look at this example here, here is the movie review that was written, and then the response to that movie review. And then here are some more more images and facts and pictures about Tim Burton and like maybe other films or other images of him, just to give us a little more interesting information about Tim Burton. All right. So all of this is on this template you're going to be using. Plus, I have these directions, which outlines every slide with more information. It gives you a little more information. So it says, like, this is what you should do on slide 1. This is what you should do on slide 2. This is what you should do on slide 3. This is what you should do on slide 4. Slide 5, slide 6. Here's the technical specs that gives us a little more information. This is what it looks like, okay? Slide 7, all right? Slide 8. And finally, slide 9, you will use Witty Video and present your screen, and you will do a screen capture, and you will also record your voice, and it shouldn't be more than 5 minutes long. And so here are the directions. Go to recording, click on screen, click on your default microphone, okay? Share your screen. Click on the hide button so that you don't see that little hide, little indicator at the bottom. This puts it in a different tab. After the countdown, make sure your presentation is in present mode. After your presentation, go to the stop sharing tab and stop what you're doing. And if you don't like what you did, then go back and record again. Okay. Here are the lists of directors. Okay, so 2 people have already selected directors. You need to let me know who you want to do, and then I will put your name in. It's a first come, first serve, and only 1 director per person. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.